Good morning, America. Thanks for joining us here on the Andy Kirkendall Show, where Andy interviews actors, writers, filmmakers, athletes, musicians, songwriters, and more, and asks them, what do you do and why do you do it? So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show.
Good morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. Today I have a returning guest. It was with me not too long ago, a filmmaker, and he's got a group of films called the Patterns of Evidence, and he's got another one coming out that he's going to be sharing with you. And I've asked him to come back and share a little bit more with you about that. What are you doing now and why are you doing it?
Well, I'm trying to complete something I started literally 20 years ago. And I don't know if you've ever had something you started a long time ago and you're like, we all have things that are, oh, I forgot. Especially go out in the garage. Oh, I forgot to finish that or fix that or whatever it is. But for me, 20 years ago, I was invited to Saudi Arabia. And was a very unusual opportunity to go to a mountain called Jebel Alaz with a small little group of people to see that location, because there was speculation that that was the location of Mount Sinai because of artifacts that were there, because of a number of other things. And so I said, can I bring a camera? And they said, yep, no problem. You can bring it. Wow, that's great. Can I bring a video camera? Yeah, you can bring a video camera. And so I shot some amazing footage, and we got there with the group. The group who brought us were from the eastern side of Saudi Arabia. They'd never been there either. They were Saudis, and they were excited about going. And once we got there, then we were there for about a day and a half to 2 days, and that's when the trouble began. And I was there for 2 weeks, and it was an amazing experience to be in that part of the world and see all the different types of things that you see in Northwest Saudi Arabia. It was where Lawrence, the Lawrence of Arabia, I think it is Lawrence, he was going through those areas. If anyone saw Lawrence of Arabia movie. So there's a lot of history at that location, but the history we were interested in was Moses. Was this where Moses and the Israelites, where Moses had lived nearby, and did he bring the Israelites to a mountain right here? And what we would come to find out was this was not something that the locals wanted anyone to be attracted to, and we were asked to leave, and we were threatened, and we had to get out of there, and this caused a big conflict. So for 2 weeks, we were sort of in a very uncomfortable situation, going from place to place. Because we were right in the thick of what I consider, and the films will show you, is the ancient land of Midian, I believe. There's enough biblical evidence for that. So here we are, 20 years later. I had been gathering footage from people from the 90s all the way through till just recently. And someone told me, Egyptologist David Roll, Andy, he said, Tim, you've talked about this Saudi Arabia, mountain, but you've never been fair to the rest of the mountains. And you've got to basically look at everything before you can, and you'll change your mind if you do. So I took several years, and we went to the mountains, either I sent a film crew, depending upon if I could get there. And we look at 6 different mountains. So Patterns of Evidence now is Journey to Mount Sinai I, came out in October. And we looked at the traditional Mount Sinai, another one called, let me look here, Jebel Sinai, and then Hashem El Tarif. Those are 3 in the Sinai Peninsula area. I'm looking at my Mount Sinai scorecard. I actually created a scorecard. And what's interesting is the first film, you don't have to see the second film or the first film to see the second film. They're completely independent of each other. So this is a scorecard to help you in the investigation. So you want to go on the investigation, Andy, you can download this scorecard from our website, patternsofevidence.com. You'll see a trailer. You can buy tickets. It's going to be in 650 theaters on May 15th and 17th. And then this also has a whole Bible verses. There's a lot more documents involved with this. If you're interested in the Bible, this is what the movie poster looks like. That's the back of my head, looking for Mount Sinai. So I am thankful that after 20 years, which I haven't shared with people, is where they say, well, why didn't you make this movie a long time ago? Well, when I was leaving Saudi Arabia, they took all the footage. They said, we're going to take all this and you might get it back, but I never got it back, and so it's been a long process. And I don't believe I was supposed to make the film then. I think this film is coming out now, and I believe it's the best time. I think I've taken a good approach by looking at 6 different locations and re-examining the biblical text. And so that's what this new project is about. Whenever I make a film, I'm trying to learn something. What's the spiritual, message here? A couple things, as I looked at this, is that even though the Israelites, God provided for them time after time after time, they kept complaining. They didn't have, the first time it was like, we're trapped at a sea and we're going to die. Why did you bring us out to the sea? And then God provides for them miraculously. You'd think after they saw the parting of the sea and they walked through the sea and the Egyptians were destroyed, they'd have more confidence or faith, but they don't. Next, they're complaining about water. Then they're complaining about food. And God each time provides for them through manna, through water coming from unique ways, water coming from a rock, quail flying in and they're gathering them. He provides for them. And then he finally gets them to the mountain and he wants to meet them. And they're terrified because of this location. And so for me, spiritually, I'm asking the question, what is it that I need to learn from this? And I think, Andy, it's that God can do things for us over and over where he provides, and we have a very short-term memory. I have a short-term memory. I don't really remember what God did for me last month or how he's provided for me or cared for me or whatever. So I've been really thinking about that. The other thing too is that they were called to go to the mountain to praise and worship God. And the crazy part about it is just after he revealed, and we're going to show all this in the movie. We're showing you all the stuff that happened. We're going to take you to look at 3 different mountains. You're going to look at Har Karkum in Israel. We're going to look at archaeology and things that match the Bible there at Har Karkum in Israel. We're going to take you to Halal Bedr, this mountain in Saudi Arabia that was a volcano, because Sir Cullen Humphreys from Cambridge, he thinks this might be where Mount Sinai is. We're going to show you what it looks like. We're going to show you what attributes it has and what other kinds of things that would be related to the biblical text there. And then we're going to take you to this mountain that I went to 20 years ago, Jebel Alaz. And I'm going to introduce you to the Exodus explorers who were going there when they weren't supposed to be years ago, getting arrested, tell that backstory. We're going to show you things you've probably not seen before ever. Even if you're kind of a buff on this, you're never going to have seen anything like this before, where we're going to put together a way of looking at this evidence in a unique way and stuff that I learned. And I've been around it for 20 years. But a lot of people have done work. They've got insights. We're trying to pull all those insights together. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to actually give you my thoughts, which I've never done before. I'm going to share with you what I think is the location. And then we have something special planned for the end of the film. There's always in a Fathom event, you have to have some type of value added. And I've just felt so compelled that I just didn't want to bring another few scholars in and talk about it. I thought that's not what this is about. What this is about is taking some time and just worshiping God. And there's a story behind that. This year was a hard year for me. I was discouraged, and there are times when I feel fearful. And I think I'm the only person. I know a lot of people feel there's just an uncomfortableness about what's going to happen, the future, leadership, all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world. And a lot of people feel fearful, and I have felt fearful. And I was going to get a tea at a place, and our church has a coffee shop. And so I went there, and there was a pastor from the inner city there. And he looked at me as I was walking out the door and he goes, "Hi, Tim, how's it going?" I said, "I don't even know where to begin." And he said, "Tim, you need to spend more time worshiping the Lord. The type of things that you're doing, the level of activity that you have around the world, you got to up the game." And, I heard that from two other people independent of that within a week. And I then feel, and it was then sensed that I need to end this film. So I got my guitar. Actually, after he told me that, I came home and I told my wife that. And I said, "What do we do?" And so instead of watching TV or whatever, which I don't watch much TV, I said, "Why don't we get my guitar out and why don't we get some of those old books, chorus books, and let's just sing." And we just spent like an hour and a half, and we had our own time in our home. I was like, wow, we need to do this more. And so I've just really been open to spending that time worshiping the Lord, because I believe there's power and protection. When we're focused on that, we're not looking at the other stuff. We're not looking at the news. We're not looking at these other things. We need to put our eyes on the right thing. So this film, we're going to have people from around the country all in the theater. I'm asking them to stand up, and we're going to close that film. And I got a special group of people with me. I got a choir. And this isn't just any choir. These are people that have been in bondage to addiction, who have now been freed, and they are they've been freed by the power of the gospel. And they're my choir. And we're going to be singing 3 songs. And that's how we're going to close this event. And I think something very special is going to happen for people that come to this. So that's kind of what's going on right now.
You got to be really conscious of the dates and the times, because it's very, very limited compared to two dates.
2 dates, May 15th and May 17th. That's it. Okay.
Absolutely.
I think that this film is a turning point for me too. I'm moving more into the supernatural in the future. I'm going to continue with archaeology and thinking and all this, but I'm going to open another layer in our films. And you can tell, Andy, our films have threads, don't they? There are lots of threads that are going through these films.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about a new thread. And I think we're just opening this up now. We're going to understand more about this as we move forward in this film. That's why it's important for people to come to see it. I think that support it too. I mean, the work of being a filmmaker and sort of competing, we're competing against Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
And we've got 650 some, maybe more screens. But if we don't get people buying tickets right now, guess what? The screens won't be there. You could even think that you're going to go see that movie, but they might decide, if there's no tickets sold, they're going to just give that over to some kind of other movie. It could be a slasher movie for all we know. I mean, so you have to help us. I mean, we've dedicated, our team has dedicated, our lives to bringing you biblical information that's really affirming the historical credibility of the Bible, and so we can pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah.
And we can't do that without people, supporting us. Even if you couldn't go to the theater, there's some businessmen that could buy tickets and give them out to people, right?
Yeah.
Pay it forward, as it were. And because you're not going to find, I've been at this for a long time, and there aren't a lot of filmmakers, and there are not a lot of films that testify to the historical credibility of the Bible. That's just the reality of it. And that's a sad reality. I wish we had more people doing this.
Get out and support this, and spread the word. Spread the word to everybody. Pass this interview on. And as I said last time when Tim was here, take some time and pray for Tim too, and pray that God would help bring him to the next level of his purpose, his plan, his future, his hope. And so be praying for him as well. Thank you, Tim, for coming back to Morning Moments and sharing what your next step is.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be back again. Thanks again.
Thank you for coming. Keep coming back, and may God richly bless you.